Hello guys, it's Chris from daxtrader.co.uk and we're going to take a look at the Dax Technical Analysis for Monday the 15th of December 2014. For anybody who's interested in checking out some of the trades that I'm making, if you're using MetaTrader 4, or if you can get a copy of it at least to sign up with, then you'll be able to follow my trades by looking at this little widget on my website here, daxtrader.co.uk, and on the right hand side you'll find this there. You can click on that and it will bring up all the details. Okay, so I started trading last night when the markets opened and got a few trades on. Started off quite well. Unfortunately gave back any gains I made on a couple of trades on the dollar yen, and early trading suggested that the dollar yen was going to fall, which made me think that perhaps the DAX was going to do the same thing. But it hasn't, and there's been some sort of, I guess, dollar strength, which is traded today, which has, of course, pushed that pair back up. So we gapped higher this morning as soon as the DAX opened up, and we haven't yet been able to come down and test to close that gap. And instead, we have taken out the rolling 24-hour VWAP. Made a high today, around how high are we looking at trading today? 96.85 perhaps, 96.80 something. And now we're starting to perhaps have, we've made a top and we've started to pull back now. So the interesting thing will be to find out whether this is going to be just simply a, if you like, a lower high, or whether this was going to be a higher low to continue this downtrend, or actually now if we hit the bottom, this round about this 95 level, which, I mean, 95 itself is extremely important level, so whether we're going to get down to that or not, it's difficult to say, or even break through it and continue this much wider reversal, or whether this is just going to be a support for the mini correction that we've been experiencing over the last week or so. Quite heavy sell-off on many of the markets, particularly the FTSE. So I'm currently short on this one simply because I've believed that this was a mini top for now, had a sell signal come in and it looked like it could be, if you like, a bit of a VWAP bounce, so we'll see how that plays out. So we've kind of been rolling down the deviation low for today, and mini period of consolidation, on Friday, mini period of consolidation before making a final low, and for today we've started to trade in a fairly compressed range, I suppose, based on what had happened the previous weeks. We're currently inside this sort of lower volume area, which was carved out from sort of late Friday afternoon, when we just had this sort of sell-off, but not a huge amount of volume was being traded. On the 5-minute chart at the moment, we can see that the DAX is starting to compress, so I'd imagine fairly soon there's going to be a bit of a move one way or the other. I'm going to put my stop up, perhaps around about this sort of VWAP level, just above it, just in case we do get a break to the upside, because I'm looking for this to break down. Okay, so let's have a look and see what some of the important levels are for today. We'll go back and look on here. So I've got a daily chart here for the DAX. And if we scroll right out for the moment and just go all the way back down to sort of 2011 and draw a line here between these lows, we've got some sort of historical trend or historical channel that we can draw in, which will be for this kind of area. But if we just look at the lower part of the channel and just see how far this comes up, you can see that it was tested here around about August time when we had that sort of V shape before creating the much larger pullback, which actually broke this trend line before coming back inside it again. But you'll notice now that if this line actually still is valid, and you might argue it isn't anymore because of this, but let's just assume that it is, then we are not far away from retesting that now. And after Friday's pretty scary looking bearish candle, you would imagine that it was going to continue today, because generally Monday could certainly follow in Friday's footsteps. There's still certainly time for it to do that, but if it does, then the S1 for I think this is the weekly S1 as opposed to the DS. The weekly S1 is around about that area, that sort of lower trend line. We've also got the more recent channel trend up since the 16th of October, where we had that stop in volume day, where we just continued to, we basically stopped that sell-off and continued with the bull run. So we've broken out of that trend line now, and I don't think there's any obvious signal that's going to get back inside there today. So I'll be watching to see how it reacts, if maybe it does come up and test this line, or certainly if it continues, takes out this low again and then goes down to test, first of all, the 95 level, which is massively significant, and then going on to continue to test this lower trend line back from 2011. So S1 for the week, you're looking at 93.62, so I think that will be the first thing to go through and target. S2 for the week, you're looking at 91.76, but they are, I think, fairly unlikely that we're going to get down as far as that. Okay, if we look at the daily pivots, then for today, I mean, I guess for the last few days, we've been experiencing, excuse me, a sell-off, and we've got this sort of very loosely drawn lower highs, lower lows setup. So starting off up here on the 11th, lower low, higher low, lower high, should I say, lower low, higher low, and so on. So I would imagine now, if this does continue, then we could be looking to take that level out and go and test the 95 level, and that was partly the setup that I'd look to follow. So put my stop just above here, and yeah, we'll see how far we can go down. But the S1 for today is going to be below the 95 level at 94.56. So I think that's probably not an entirely ridiculous place to put your or to put my profit target. Okay, so I'll draw out some additional lines to put up on the article today, but if we're just going to take a look quickly at the current VWAP for today's trading. So we had this this area here where we were starting to got to test towards the deviation high. We bounced off and made a new high today at 96.81, and we started experiencing this kind of, I guess, typical zigzag pattern down again. We started to get into this sort of consolidation range at the moment. So again, it's going to be interesting to see which way this does break. We've had a mini sell-off, I guess, made a couple of points so far, but you know, we really do need to go down and take out this level at the 96.04 to then go down and test some larger levels down here. So that's kind of what I'm up to today. Looking at shorting this when I can. I'm not entirely sure that I have a sort of a strong bias either way, slightly longer term than just on a daily setup, short-term trading. I'm certainly bearish for today, but longer term it's difficult to know what the DAX is going to be doing. There's lots and lots of fundamentals out there that could swing this one way or the other, so I think the key thing really is to be light on our feet and to try and adapt and change depending on whatever the market decides to do. So in terms of fundamental data this week, I mean, we've known already about the Japanese election. There's Greece have got something similar, and there's also the FOMC later on this week. There's quite a few interesting setups on some of the other Forex pairs as well, which I'm watching. We've still got the Euro Swiss, which is quite interesting. And you've got the Euro Pound, which is probably one of the better ones to look at for in a longer term setup, simply because we're starting to create this sort of symmetrical triangle shape in a downward trending pattern with this quite significant historical base here that we're actually being compressed down to on a longer time frame. So this one, I don't think there's any clear opportunities right now to trade. We've got to wait for some fundamental triggers, but you'd imagine, if anything, if this continues to move up, probably going to be bouncing off of this upper trend resistance and continue to move down. But we really need something fairly significant to break through this floor to move one way or the other. But the fundamentals, you would suggest that the pound is certainly going to be weaker based on the monetary policy stance from the Bank of England compared to the Eurozone. So if anything, you would imagine this is going to have some ability to break through this floor fairly soon in 2015 certainly. So it's an interesting one that I'm watching for a much larger swing trade, probably into January, February time. So that's quite an interesting setup. I haven't actually done much on looking at the FTSE today, but we had that huge sell-off last week, sort of a lot of fear there. You could argue that perhaps part of the reason was because the FTSE does have quite a lot of commodity-based companies. and they would have obviously taken the hit based on the fear from the fall in oil prices. You've also got OPEC coming out to say that they're not actually going to intervene, even if prices get down as low as $40 a barrel. So, we'll wait and see what happens with that too. So lots of interesting stuff to trade out there today. So for the DAX, although it's sort of swinging around in a bit of a range at the moment, between sort of 96.35, 96, I'm still bearish for today. I'm waiting for a breakout to the downside, although I have already traded it based on a signal that I received earlier. Good luck trading for the rest of the day today, and we'll be back later on, hopefully, with another video.